We are pretty spoiled these days with good to even great video games getting equally or even better adaptations into movies and television series.
Impossible.
Prime Video's first season of Fallout was a lot of fun that felt right in line with its source material's tone and vision.
I'm simply going to harvest your organs.
HBO's The Last of Us has been a gargantuan success, both creatively and to whatever numbers matter to the data fiends at Warner. But it took a long time for video game adaptations to find their footing. In the past, they were often mediocre or downright terrible. Not you though, my sweet Mortal Kombat, I love you. Mwah. Regardless of their quality, these flicks were seen as punchlines for a very long time.
You're joking.
While there were some more obscure earlier adaptations we could dive into in a later video, if y'all are interested, let us know in the comments. One major theatrical release kicked off the video game adaptation craze back in, you guessed it, loyal viewers, our favorite decade, the 90s. It was the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Before that other one your kids have watched 100 times officially got that title.
Really?
Super Mario Bros. Released in 1993. And if you were around the right age, it was one of the biggest events of your entire year. It is mostly remembered now as an enormous failure. Even as I write this, you can't stream Super Mario Bros. On any streaming service in the US at all. Why was this flick such a historic and unforgettable disaster of a concept, production, and box office release? And how in the world has it managed to become a beloved cult classic? I'm Drew Deitch for Giant Freakin' Robot, and this is why Super Mario Bros. The movie failed.
Are we dead?
Our story doesn't begin in the Mushroom Kingdom. First, we have to exit Gotham City, preferably via a green pipe. After the unprecedented success of Batman in 1989, studios began greenlighting bigger, bolder, and bank-breaking productions in an effort to find their own franchise blockbuster.
Wait till they get a load of me.
Attempts at making Super Mario Bros. Had been developing in the 80s, but finally solidified in the early 90s when Nintendo struck a deal with Light Motive, a smaller British studio who were allowed a surprising amount of creative freedom. That's because, according to producer Roland Joffe, Nintendo president Hiroshi Yamauchi felt the Mario brand was strong enough to weather any American movie iteration, and he was open to the very different take the movie was pitching. And before we crack open that egg, we have to take a detour to
Jurassic Park.
Back in the old Hollywood days, if there was a huge production in town that everyone believed was going to be a smash hit, you'd see studios big and small race to get their own spin on it out as soon as possible.
You stood on the shoulders of geniuses to accomplish something as fast as you could, and before you even knew what you had, you patented it and packaged it and slapped it on a plastic lunchbox, and now you're selling it.
That's how James Cameron's The Abyss gave us Deep Star 6, Leviathan, and the MST3K favorite, Lords of the Deep. The same attempt occurred when studios knew Dino-Mania, or as us old heads call it, pre-hysteria, was going to sweep the world in 1993 with the release of Jurassic Park. And amidst that clutch of Carnosaur,
Greetings, Green Brother.
We're Back, a dinosaur story, and Rex, also a dinosaur story, was birthed the plot for Super Mario Bros., hoping to use a tenuous connection to Super Mario World's Dinosaur Land to get away with chasing 1993's Dino Dollars.
We're gonna make a fortune with this place.
Roland Joffe employed Max Headroom creators Rocky Morton and Annabelle Jankel to direct and lead the creative vision for the movie. And the idea they all came up with took the cartoon fantasy of the games and reinterpreted it into a dark sci-fi alternate universe dystopia where dinosaurs evolved into the prominent sentient beings on the planet. Yeah, it's gonna get weird. This dark, edgier, and deliberately different take on the concept was seen as the right direction to go because it had worked for both Batman and another kid-targeted franchise movie, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's hard to think of now, but before Tim Burton's Batman, this was what most people around the world thought of when you said Batman. Same goes for the Turtles, who were most popular thanks to their very kid-friendly cartoon series. When these properties made the jump to the big screen at the end of the 20th century, the thought was that more serious takes on the characters would widen the potential audience to both older kids and adults.
I mean, with Jack Nicholson in it, I mean, how can you go wrong? I mean, especially his makeup, that's great, man.
So, after a two-fisted effort to shove in dinosaurs and darken up the Mushroom Kingdom, the filmmakers felt they had a take worth turning into a blockbuster hit. In Super Mario Bros., the meteor that supposedly wiped out the dinosaurs actually created two universes: our world and a world where dinosaurs evolved into humanoid beings that create a cyberpunk city called Dino Hatton.
No, get away from my baby! Get away from my baby!
We are just getting started. Dino Hatton is run by the fascist president Koopa, played by the demented Dennis Hopper. His plan is to obtain a piece of the dimension-splitting meteorite to merge both dimensions and rule over dinosaur and humankind. This meteorite MacGuffin is in the hands of Daisy, Samantha Mathis, an orphan from the Dino Dimension who is revealed to be the daughter of the noble king that was deposed by Koopa and devolved into a gigantic fungus that is spreading across Dino Hatton. Look, I said it was going to get weird. Finally, we have our heroes, Mario and Luigi, the Mario Brothers. Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo are two hapless Brooklyn plumbers who get swept up with Daisy and her adventure into the dino dystopia. At a glance, you can see how lost in translation Super Mario Bros. Looks when you think about what Super Mario Bros. Is as an idea. So it's a no-brainer that the entire artistic take of the movie turned audiences off in a big way. But here's where I'm on the side of Super Mario Bros. A bold failure is always far more interesting than a safe success. Though the dark sci-fi riff Super Mario Bros. Is doing was never going to be box office gold for this property, I support taking these kinds of big artistic swings. David Ayer's Suicide Squad and Josh Trank's Fantastic Four are movies I will defend even though they aren't good, because I appreciate seeing such distinct attempts at these kinds of adaptations. But just like those two superhero blockbusters, Super Mario Bros. Also had to deal with a meddling studio changing what the movie was originally supposed to be. After going through pre-production, casting, and building sets, Disney bought up the film's distribution rights and demanded script changes that lightened everything up as much as possible, leaving the finished movie with serious tonal problems.
You know what they say about little girls, don't you?
The cast didn't learn about these major script changes until they were in North Carolina for the shoot. Directors Morton and Jankel were so mad that they wanted to leave the production. A number of injuries to the main cast and other issues led to an extremely contentious production. But what matters to the bean counters isn't how awful your production was or how wild your ideas are. All that matters is green. And we ain't talking one-up mushrooms. Super Mario Bros. Opened at the number 4 spot at the box office and struggled to make just under $21 million in the US against a budget well into the $40 to $50 million range. The movie managed to make Siskel and Ebert's worst films of the year list, so critics and audiences were turned off in a big way. For years, Super Mario Bros. Was part of the video game movie curse narrative as a warning to any other future adaptations. But then, a funny thing happened.
Man, she sure makes an impression.
It turns out that because of its bizarre take, tumultuous production, and even its eventual failure, fans began to find a lot that fascinated them about Super Mario Bros. I saw it as a kid, and even though I've never really liked the movie as a story or a journey with interesting characters, I find it deeply intriguing as a movie production. And I'm not the only one. Super Mario Bros. Has amassed a true cult following. So much that a special edition 4K remaster was released, and the collector's edition that I proudly own features an entire book of scripts and a huge book of production art and photos. Super Mario Bros. Is one of the most obvious failures in movie history. But there's no denying it's a movie with a vision. And those kinds of movies always manage to find their audience. They might not be the enormous kind of audience that propels your movie to a billion-dollar box office, but they are the kind of audience that can find and appreciate the best parts of a failure. If you'd like to hear my deeper review of Super Mario Bros., check out the Genre Vision Movie Club podcast, where we did a whole episode on it. If you dig this video and other Why It Failed videos, make sure to let us know in the comments. Click the like button and subscribe to the channel, or we'll be devolved into Goombas. Thanks for watching Giant Freaking Robot, and remember,
Trust the fungus.
I'm Captain Lou Albano talking to you about drugs. Kids, don't be afraid to say no. Anyone that asks you to use drugs is not your friend. Drugs can and will kill. Remember, don't be afraid to turn to your priest, your rabbi, your minister, your moms, your dads, your teachers, because drugs can kill. And if you do drugs, you go to hell before you die. Please.